nature is the part of the complete identity of all space slash existence that is inseparable from all parts of itself, even from all parts of everything that is made up, and its way that it is distinctly to the finite, the grouped, and the simultaneous part. Control our hearts. The species body of individual bodies have been systems tactical terror than its own. People have been faking and changing the communications of our presidents and chiefs. And where how there's exceptions, they've been faking and changing ours. That's forced because there are styles of logic that are reliant upon other things being and having been communicated for James Madison and our founders behind him and his plan. And then they went and got James Madison to agree. And got George Washington to agree to use that plan and to force the rest of the founders to get it said that, which was highly criminal to do, to get it said to get the Constitution unabridged. And it said that we have vast rights that are too numerous to have to list them. See, we have had the quality of fact, human nature, and the collusions with the differences of it, of guilt with it, that it forced to be, like with the branches of government, incapable of having discerned what nature itself and what our founders communicated for us to understand about what witch trials are about, even if they were completely made up. The laws that were in place at the time, our founders did not have free speech because everyone's speech individually grouped and together. There were collusions against themselves or sensing, because if they didn't sense the person or group, well, not collusion to great extents, that body would be sensed through their own people. They had laws that controlled their internationally monitored conversations. They had entrenched sickly distinctly northern colonies and southern colonies, a method by slavery against every single person sickly distinctly. Excuse me. And recorded rules then and now, keeping people blaming other things other than themselves for things that breaching method caused, forced, only allowed to be. And collusion slash S. It forced those collusions, a singular breaching method. You don't bring up what witch trials are about and leave out, for example, how there's a witch trials place right next to where George Washington had to come to counter-extort right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. And leave slavery entrenched, though. Northern colonies, southern colonies. Not because he wanted to. He didn't have that entrenched. We're supposed to be honest about his extortion, which would have brought up how everyone was tortured, extorted, in fact, human nature enslaved, therefore, and physically enslaved. What do you think war is? It's physical enslavement. Even if you're a general, slavery, even if you're a general. Since some ancient times, they're like the Uncle Toms, blaming other things, others themselves are being sensed, distinctly from the other individual voices. Not speaking about black people's rights of eyes within the way that nature does. Not speaking about the breaching method that we employed. Rolls with that itself, with other communicated for nature. Otherwise, that body is sensed. And all exceptions only as nature, as criminal insidiousness nature, even with the positive treatments. You guys want to have debates about who knows what with American history nonsense. Start with the beginning. What was entrenched? Northern colonies, southern colonies, our founders did not have free speech. It's recorded that the campuses A through Z. So then they have monies involved with this. No one knows how to deal with legal cases. The breaching method did that. Breaching method showed all the demonstrations of it. Needs to hide that at other locations there. And the difference, you need to hide that. Roles will use slash S of the difference with estimations, logics of things. Substantialized counters, exceptions are collusion slash S. Some way Judge Napolitano's got the best thing in the world because the news is shock and awe. Everyone had presented to them how to think and speak for the law. All uses of truth for lies, uses of collusions with all kinds of rackets, with evidences rackets, methods, predicate acts of facts, methods that no one even pays attention to. That together as a group, they're like killers, including with the lawyers. All sides of criminal and civil cases and the formal law names interbranch intelligence tied to them, foreign and domestic, how they are shared. An intelligence community foreign that had timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. The only time I saw a Phil Cololo on a campus in Wethersfield, he was being handed a golden um, watch by a principal from my school. Has something to do with people involved with the FBI in foreign countries with the World Trade Center attack, including Saudi Arabia. But the Saudi attackers were also used remotely because there were a whole bunch of other people involved with these countries involved with these people who are totally different people, who totally were influenced to go out of their way to hide life progressions and collusions with illusions that a Cololo, Demaro, and O'Brien family have been spreading with other intelligence families, including one, D. Simone, reportedly capacity. Also, one of the names name dropped by people to pretend I had a conversation with them at Hartford Hospital. Hartford Hospital has roles with police forums and fire departments in other countries where they have mental evaluations, where they fabricate conversations there. A whole bunch of people tied to and as of Brendan Leahy have roles with mail crimes and wire crimes and falsified police reports and fake transcripts, also with different police forms, a whole bunch of state police and FBI associated with a Leahy family and various courts, judges, and prosecutors, personally and professionally involved with all kinds of federal evidences crimes with them, whole digital crime methods, including remote uses of the sense and sensibilities of Judge Napolitano, with the difference of that or of other courts' roles with it too. And with the databases, there are predicate acts and databases at each campus I went to, involved with the people at Central Connecticut State University. Brought up, there's a Lynn too. I don't know her last name. Apparently, she knows my last name. There are proofs that she knows a Ray Reynolds and people from Westbrook involved with a Mike Pandoff, with intelligence, with a Scalora family involved with them, with Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, involved with the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan, New York, and with people with Washington D.C. involved with them with that. Also, at and next to news and communications locations like the public television, and the difference of their roles is used by the breaching method that uses differences increasingly. But in other words, they've been showing fake transcripts and putting fake transcripts to hide how they've been using all natures of investigators, and uses of crimes by people, like including relative to wars that were forged, effectively used to measure and maintain collusions that are fluent through our country with psychiatry, for example. There are psychiatry people with Hartford Hospital, private and professionally, with the security and with the lawyers and foreign and domestic military, and names at and next to the place, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Their patients and criminals run in to hide life progressions. The family members of the people involved with locations involved with fake ties, fake natures of ties to people that involve wire crime methods where they put fake transcripts. That's the kind of police force we're dealing with. So, in other words, they're refusing to identify themselves because they have been denying things I said on Facebook. And even when I did say things that are like it could be taken as a lie or whatever, debatable. While they're debating, they're recorded confessing, demonstrating, confirming roles with things like body dumping spots. They have time to use /SOM roles. coordinated, having been coordinated intercities and online. These are people involved with databases used criminally foreign influence since before the internet. Since before America's founders were born, the republic for which we stand was a criminally foreign influenced version of itself, of the value of the Constitution unabridged, and why and how we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them, and why and how the values are incompatible, but they're inseparable, but they're also only independent. And the value of that is still abridged, though. The difference between president and chief. See, only thing that's going on at countries A through Z are locations, areas, and states of individual identities of logic, leaving out exceptions, exception nature, exactly the way the breaching method left. We knew they would. Speaking about the worth of value, if someone has money or not, if they have not a penny, they're not supposed to play that all kinds of ways. They have that only pretend. They pretend that people need lawyers when they don't need lawyers. And they made and keep exceptions, well, all kinds of rackets that have been staged collusions at every instance brought at all locations and crime scenes. Real and every increasingly made up things with all, even the real ones, even the most serious ones like the World Trade Center. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3, has been putting predicate acts with intelligence interstates involved. Whole bunch of people tied to people with the name Kerr and people with the name Fred Grisey. And there's a Mazzucato family with Boston, a Boston College, I believe it is involved, and with the intercities, the town lines, involved with former police chiefs from Wethersfield, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders on a mass scale. And then increasingly, they cover that up by waiting, fishing to be roles with other instances. And they've been faking instances. They have wire crime and digital crimes that are also sexually natured with a Judge Killian, who's also involved with the Leahy family. 3 times they forced me to Hartford Hospital. He's one of the ones the second time or third time there. And 2 times it was for 30 days in a row. And these are people involved also with they made up things 2 times too for those 30 days. They made things up because they were covering up what they did on Facebook. Wethersfield police are recorded with other agencies and police forms and courts, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. A whole bunch of people know my name. I don't even know their names at 3 spots at the end of the Burn Turnpike, involved with a Mark Violet and a Joshua Schumack, involved all along Route 3 and its conjunctions, planting evidences all along Route Walker Hill Road with foreign and domestic military, people involved with religious spots, involved with some KKK black theme, Confederate flag theme at and next to campuses involved. And with coaches involved with conversations with a Jonathan Maiano, who some ways it's his family's criminally foreign influence, some ways it's the people that influence him. And the differences of that is being used too. And that's relative to their roles with that way, the interstates with the names like Tomorrow and Cololo involved with confessions tied to the ones in Scalora that I witnessed. There's a Claudia Scalora. I'm most positive it was her. Well, who else is going to look almost exactly like her? Right, timed right when I'm about to walk out my hotel room. And I never word of conversation with her there or any place else. Her cousin is increasingly involved with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, that first forced. Their family members recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed them involved with all kinds of medical corruption and medicines corruption at Hartford Hospital, at and next to the state corrections offices, at and next to the state judicial branch offices. The rules of wire crime, mail crime, sequence shifts, and leaders of kids putting predicate acts in databases with mayors of kids. There, I don't know if it has ties to Senator Lieberman. Anyone that has ties to, there's always the breaching method involved too. But everyone involved to try to speak what actually recorded, everyone forced that left out. It's recorded relative to how the black pupils, let whites and eyes get left out. Let alone that, and the breaching method at the same time also left out. Let alone that, let those two things left out, and that are how our breaching method, that's a subject in our founders' communications. James Madison's communications has that as a subject. And him and the founders behind him and his plan is what made the Declaration of Independence. Not a T tax. They say that. They put those things like that. And then they leave the other thing buried in the book. And you say it and no one responds to you. Then all kinds of bad things happen too. On and off the campuses. Like, in other words, everyone is from off the campus is the worst predator to blame here. But it has been sustained on and off them. Before and after the World Trade Center attack, Central Connecticut State University had roles through time with campuses intercities and intra-cities involved with recorded conscious use /s of predicate acts stuck with facts, roles, and allusions stuck into databases and spoken through people, where some predicate acts are like wire crimes. WFSB has been recorded, confessed, demonstrated collusions with the difference between foreign and domestic kids, how shared here with intelligence families, and natures of industries originally still criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and cover-ups that are only concentrated there. All kinds of ways, though, medical corruption is involved with other natures of conjunctions to the courts involved criminally, like at East Hartford locations. There's someone, I believe his name was Darren. I don't know, then they make halfway confessions. There are more judges, including female judges, including black and white female judges, involved with the detective Samuda, involved with a whole bunch of people with UConn from Central Connecticut State University, and people from Duke University involved with the name Leahy, involved with drugs and medicines crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, putting fake transcripts with the FBI and other agencies involved in state police families, interstates. Increasingly, Mike Roberts also has roles interstates. He sought me out to plant evidences and with prosecutors and judges and people involved with this interstates with state police forms and the FBI and their co-defendants. Eric Jensen also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed this, and collusions with people tied to body dumping spots on Two Rod Highway and other natures of federal evidences crimes with them, also next to the state judicial branch offices, per Enzo Fienza and a whole bunch of other people. Eric Oliveria also sought me out to put sequence chips and plant fake ties and natures of ties to me and hide what came first, which is them just planting evidences. The only time I know him. He knows that. And he did that behind my back with my teachers. I don't know the extent of it. And then reportedly, my teacher had intimate ties with and I don't even know how I know that. And so they try to make the sense and sensibilities of everyone. These are people that are lying to my family members, and they have their class placements specifically for this. It's also manifest where they have more than one person. They time it. It's like a method because it's increasingly together. The overt criminal enterprises, differentially, some of them are worse, but at the same time, there are constant other ways. They're constantly collusions. With their differences, with their logic, their fact treatment nature, styles, nature, speaking about serious things like Palestine and that devastated land and those serious problems, leaving out the black people's rights of eyes, leaving out how our founders communicated for us to demonstrate the breaching method involved here, the self-value uses of our founders' name, words, leaving out how the breaching method that they recorded, they declassified it was involved there. It was measuring everyone's words. No one had free speech. Everyone had to pretend other or be sensed. And especially once they said the revolution, because that was not just against England. That was not just against the other countries. It was against what was using each, since some ancient times, perfected roles with and as what couldn't and can't increasingly afford to be, let alone protract short words with convictions proper by uses of the names of the sciences, let alone the names of the sciences and the people of the sciences simultaneously, and where they how they are manifest at our location slash S. The suburbs were designed before America's founders were born. That theater there is theater here that has remained per method. Black pupils, many ways better than Judge Napolitano. I lead you here. I'm not even a lawyer. Black pupils. Other ways, he's the only one trying to show what's going on. See, but everyone's forcing. See, the president will say, look, this country is being very rude to us in some of these ways, and so we have to negotiate. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We know there are other influences and even names that aren't even involved in the conversations that are trying to keep trouble between us. So I'm going to be the one who does it, and you guys don't do it about the wall. Oh yeah, but there's this and that. Meanwhile, the same people countering the criminal enterprises have roles with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, with psychiatry, tactically delusions raw too, all kinds of predicate acts methods. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital are involved with the Weathersfield Community Center, with the Joe DeMoro and John DeMoro, and their other family members, with the businesses and houses and overt criminal enterprises and private ones at and next to Hartford Hospital. And these are people involved with it like a diaspora, where they have the mental health care side of hospitals associated with all the different natures of courts. They have probate courts where those places are right. The judges right there, like a Judge Killian, involved with the agencies with remote uses of him too, though, but also him uses of the agencies remotely, putting his delusions and criminal foreign influences and fake motivations relative to his family members and their roles with the ground to locations together as predators, in other words, and all kinds of medicines crimes with the Judge Killian. And then he had the audacity to run for mayor. A former mayor is from Weathersfield with the name, but like one with the name Cintron, is involved with a Mazzucato bakery and a modern pastry, per the confessions of a Jonathan Maiano, of his roles with sequence chefs and pretending he knew me before he did is demonstrated. In other words, I didn't ask him what he's going to say about that, but he has roles with the DeMoro family too, and where the DeMoro's market is now in Rocky Hill, and where it used to be, and there are proofs that there's a Joshua Stryker involved with that too, and they hid this from, um, or they lied to her about this too. President Burgess Sweeney from Trinity College, Mark Violet, and a whole bunch of people from Trinity College from Weathersfield took pictures and made fake ties and fake natures of ties to me with people all along Ridge Road who have roles with the FBI and other countries leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. And that also has a conjunction to Route 175 and people with the corners on that involved with conversations with the people involved, planting fake conversations with me at databases, and people next to Hartford Hospital also with the Violet brothers and their family members. Their mother has roles with intelligence at UConn, who has roles directly with lawyers and with all kinds of legal scams at Hartford Hospital too. Involved also with the digital mail and wire crime acts and methods. And they change and fake what people say when they respond to such predicate acts, as such predicate acts. For example, they change and fake what people say, put digitally too. Even New Britain Superior Court demonstrated true after the Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts in the Britain and Connecticut District Court have people named Brian Silver, and they have people intimately tied reportedly to Eric Burgess. He has involvements with predicate acts with the FBI and the courts associated with them, and with Officer Hunter involved with a whole bunch of intelligence with the buildings at Central Connecticut State University and foreign countries that demonstrated also they have roles on off. I never had a conversation with Officer Hunter on my life there, Whole bunch of people on Park Street are involved with foreign and domestic intelligence and with overt criminal enterprises, actually, even if it's undercover and fake, because they have roles faking with news too. But they have roles with actual body dumping spots and timed use slash estimate, even if they were made up. And they had two different descriptions about two different body dumping spots in two different news locations. And like I forgot which the name of that paper was. In other words, with the body dumping spot, Billy Grasso is involved with a whole bunch of people tied to a South Seville that I never had a conversation with. They try to make it look like other. And simultaneously, they did the opposite. And the difference was is being used too. South Seville will tell you himself. These are people from off by campuses, and with the exceptions being mayors and people tied to mayors, increasingly involved with various natures of federal criminals before they were caught, including if that is to establish undercover police. There are proofs that might is there was a reporting of a beating, and they kind of like showed it on television of an O'Brien, and I believe it was in Cromwell. That's one of the cities involved with it. Tomorrow has some child campuses and people associated with child campuses and police forms with the FBI and other agencies in foreign countries and medical offenders involved with conjunction a child campus that's a conjunction to Route 3. Now these are people involved with proven child abusers, leaders of kids first force years apart, where they were timed use slash estimate roles. And where I did little things to counter, people like on Morgan Circle were involved with wire and mail crimes and federal evidences crimes and predicate acts with courts and police forms. Before I got before they had before I got them to do that in courts. But they're refusing writing since I was a kid, and there are other countries involved. And there was a hyper foreign involved. And there are some black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, German themed, Italian themed cultures I don't even know. In the list, I've said it plenty of times before in different ways. When I make a little exception different, they're looking for the fishing for cover-ups. In other words, tell me who disbelieves what I say. In other words, the president says he's trying to get the help of Saudi Arabia and Iran. But to get the help of Iran, I mean, humanity is going to blow up, but then we have more nuclear weapons. We could give them forever bonds, way better. We could just turn the countries and continents into sensors. For in other words, if we don't have immediate evolution, fruits and gifts means out of nowhere using its system. Better than free, we could have water lifted, nature construction. You can give me in like say 10 years ago. Me and like 10 other kids were given full zoning law rights to that town in Connecticut where they had problems with their foundations. We had, a network, we could say, look, you guys, who's going to come help? How many people would help them? Especially if we're going to stack upon it. Way better than the house than they had now. And not designed for everyone on top of everything and like that. And designed for nature to have places too. We could do this. We could make more energy and save more energy and create more great nature that wouldn't even be by lifting water and dropping it. Then it takes energy to lift it. Those are the kind of things that we should be putting our energy on each day. Lifting water. We put all the energy lifting water more than we need to have the hyper paradise. All of a sudden, now there's all kinds of freshwater fish. You can start new because all the other ones are polluted. But that's the only thing you eat for omega-3. That's it. What do you think it was against Native Americans against Native Americans? The reason the people sick came over like that is because they came from some ancient times. There are proofs it took down the mountains to make this problem and to exploit, to measure, and then to play the games with the colors. For example, to measure and maintain role self-value, speaking for the sciences, tactically ulterior than what could afford use of the science's name, more than to be used properly, let alone to protract syntax by that proper, therefore function. Hypernative pure. No, in other words, I'm trying to tell you guys, please follow mandated law. Get them into branch. Connecticut have been for refusing to identify themselves legitimately, America and world, because all these countries and Judge Napolitano subjects, they have collusions all kind of ways. Also with the people with the roads and routes uses. Increasingly from people from Weathersfield, Connecticut. Anyone who knows people with the name Gold or Casper, they have roles with stacking fake things in databases with people involved, also with the name Civiello, his neighbors, and people associated with the programs of Cub Scouts and Tiger Cubs, involved also with the Christopher Walters, and people in playing games with the kids that lost, like he lost his father. Then they used him to plant evidence side cover ups their roles with a whole bunch of different countries. And with the campuses, people putting evidences, crimes next to campuses. A whole bunch of people acted next to all sides of the campuses through time. And there are time use /s of those people's roles with this. Increasingly, people tied to a radical law will tell you they were influenced to be in my presence so people could record fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. These are people trying to establish undercover while the sciences have obligations to demonstrate things about culture and difference that our founders communicated about the breaching methods, uses of it. And there's still collusions, uses of our founders' words, leaving out what they declassified about it. The nature of debate contains quality aspects and natures and styles that are being and haven't been used remotely at countries A to Z. All are being tortured, extorted, and fact treating nature enslaved sickly, distinctly. But all are not realizing because you guys are playing economics, leaving out what our founders, not just America's founders, communicated rather than said. Nature itself shows what our founders said was measured and maintained by a breaching method that had already had collusions with itself by the groupings of humanity too, even the counters to each other countries. It's not just by accident everyone left out how we have black people's whites of eyes and clearer than day. Not just because our founders communicated about it as a subject in their communications with that which was declassified too. But in other words, nature itself shows there was a human fact treating nature breaching method involved. And we pay attention to those things, in reality, it shows us other things other than ourselves are blamed. Not one has trained. Vaccines. Parliament did a law, get them on paper into branch, Your Honor. All kinds of behavior racketeering. Increasingly tied people that fake behavior with this Debbie Gold. When I was in second and third grade, people spied on me. And people used what they learned through their kids to use truths for lies. And to book behavior racketeering where people are going to leave out their actual motivations. Use all truths for lies. The kids will tell you this. When I was a kid and the kids now. The same ones that will tell you other at the same time and then tell you they don't realize why they did it years later. There's the same torture method at elderly homes and veteran homes. They don't know how to respond to it. You guys are backed into you not speaking as little kids where nature gave you means to speak. Because you had it taken away from you by adults. And then as adults, when you waited, so you wouldn't have to hurt people's feelings for that. No, because in other words, this person's a mayor and like that. They're your family. To tell American history, you have to show there was guilt there. There was criminal incompetence. There were delusions, raw branches of government only allowed to be. As collusion too, with the breaching method. Well, a whole bunch, not just other countries were also involved, sickly distinctly. North and South colonies, other things. They moved where our founders were left described having had slaves. When you examine those people's evidences, treatments, their collusions, framing our founders with science's self-valued roles with them. Oh, but this is a guy's a good guy. In other words, so is the kid in New York City who did bad things. So is Mike Tyson. Like, in other words, I don't want him to score Mike Tyson, even though he said that in videos somewhere. Shout out to Mike Tyson. But in other words, so are the kids in New York City. But there's a breaching method that's sickly distinctly measures sickly distinctly. You guys can't speak honestly about with the suburbs exactly the way it employed that to be not being able to talk about, even though it was involved with the torture, extortion, and slavery of our founders. The suburbs, let alone, and the suburban / urban with beautiful houses in Hartford, next to not beautiful apartments. But the beautiful houses in Hartford were converted to 3-family homes. So when everything played out, that infrastructure that was forced by torture, extortion, slavery methods before America's founders were born and through their lives, our founders did not have free speech. That was the class fight. Nature itself shows us that. The nature of debate regarding, if they didn't have free speech, why did they put it in the Constitution? And with the nature like that, what's the response to that? See, we have to have swears that we can get emphatic because people have using passions and emotions. They have the poor Palestinians trying to defend themselves by using the words like extremism and radical. That's exactly a collusion with the people that pulled off the World Trade Center attack and countered them as collusions. Recorded with WFSB too, Connecticut's Channel 3 News. Whole bunch of people tied to them involved. Also intercities and at various natures of campuses, including medical, child campuses, fire campuses. Please follow mandated law for them, for their for the intelligence at next to their location. The same ones are at and next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with a whole bunch of natures of predicate acts with them, predicate acts methods with them, names involved with them. Same names putting people in fake conversations with them and saying everyone's evil. In other words, the same ones with their educators involved and people from off their campuses. They'll tell you this when you ask them, get them on paper right. Same ones involved with WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, the Channel 8 News, the Channel 61 News, whole dumping fake things. And they put them their stuff on YouTube too. Their treatments of that even preemptively rolls with crimes at locations, whole predicate acts methods. The certain type of victim / hyper victim forgiveness is for this, to focus on those predicate acts themselves and to get the name switching into branch that had time collusions with them onto paper at the same time with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones who also had time collusion, also with a couple layers other in the list. And these are people involved with all the nations in the news. We have black people as white divide. How could it be hard to discern, to believe that anyone, and especially individual, how could they demonstrate roles with the differences rackets? There are proofs that they have their differences rackets so extreme because they hide life progressions, and they rely on that. Because at the same time, their uses overtly of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. Like when you guys lie about what you think about what I say about how WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others, and with people who did that through years, intercities, on off campuses of all ages and natures. And the difference of that was is used too. A whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital's Institute of Living have a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime acts and roles with names at and next to Fox Connecticut News, at and next to WFSB, at and next to WTNH, which is also the FBI, with all identities lost since founding. When did they have the integrity to speak for Black people's rights of eyes? Where and how it counts. They have rules with all kinds of natures of organized crime, acts, and methods, and sick things we're going to examine. Also, where they speak nothing and are shock and awe. And making that and valuing that otherwise so they can pretend through contrast. Increasingly, when they look at reactions of people, they can't defend their estimations when they go back and forth on fact treatments too. They're leaving out other people's names and what came first. On a mass scale, they're putting fake and changed transcripts. They already had collusions with all sides of cases. Were they going to throw themselves in jail, everyone else too? That's why in other words, forgiveness means follow mandated law. Let's just deal with the predicate acts and the whole methods of them recorded. In other words, Black people, period. Get them on paper, please. Someone told Judge Napolitano they've been tied in lies. Weathersfield Police and the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts and the family members in intimate ties, including with retired police chiefs, like a police chief Cintron, a whole bunch of people tied to him, intercities, involved with predicate acts methods, wire crimes, police forging and switching names, making confessions, stacking descriptions of what happened that are criminally foreign influence too. Wasting my time. Get them on paper, one name in sequence, please. Have Judge Napolitano know too, because they use his Facebook page and they're using the Facebook page of the news media. I'm not even a licensed journalist. They're using the difference of those licenses to get over on people, on scales, on mass identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake motivations for it roles. Because of that's what his nature is showing us. One of the things it is showing us where and how it shows us that its communications is being replaced with the Black people's rights of eyes, same color eyes, different color at the same time. And with the breaching method left out as a subject matter in our founders' communication. See, we have readings of statutes and precedents that are reliant upon criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw appreciations of Marbury versus Madison. I'm not even a lawyer. I'll show you how to. Judge Napolitano has one of the best YouTube channels in the world, and his live streams in some ways, mine's way better. And mine clears the world, but we can't do it without his too. In other words, and let alone, then if we had his legal knowledge using this system by nature itself, that shows us this predicate acts with facts method /S roles to seize. The ancient campus calls each through the breeze. See, the ancient republic, it valued exception nature. It valued being led by that which is actually true always, not denying safety. Its rules with questions, with value treatments like control. When the Britain Superior Court recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with other courts too, they pretend simultaneously but they have criminally they were shown by a breaching method. They have criminally foreign influence uses of words like control. Whoa. We'll examine.